On March 1st, 1954, the Castle Bravo was launched by the United States and lands onto the Bikini Atoll Marshall Islands. Its impact was of highly powered thermonuclear energy. Its radiation has contaminated those residing in the island that many forms of sickness were carried out, such as nausea. And then, a monstrous beast emerges. The king of the monsters himself. Welcome back, Obscure Titan here with another Megatronic Legacy essay. With quite a few characters brought into this new continuity, we take a look at a likely candidate for this series to emerge, Godzilla. The monster himself has been popular for nearly 7 decades. He's become a phenomenal hit for the majority of his time, and a couple stinkers. Godzilla is a fantastical creature, a symbol of nuclear war being abused, to the point where life is being threatened to near extinction. Having him in Megatronic Legacy would make him a very probable choice, seeing that the Cold War tensions and the political landscape would fit right in. Since there's so many continuities in movies throughout the series, it would take hours to go over them all. I recommend checking out Wikizilla. This channel not only goes into deeper detail into the films, but also having more knowledge than I could. However, I'll still touch on the 1954 film as a base to all Godzilla movies. They're not the same when it comes to specifics in terms of characterization and plot, but there is one thing that they have in common. Godzilla. There was one last detail I should point out. The 1954 film will be the only entry that's going to be canon to Megatronic Legacy. But Titan, you might be asking, didn't you say there should be no official stuff being canon? What's different this time is I will no longer use pre-existing source material that each series appearing in comes with. So no Pirate's Curse, no Ripto's Rage, no Tales of Berseria. It will have its own lore for everyone involved in it, other than US history. Yes, you are right. However, this will be an exception. There is a reason why I'm considering this to be canon. The 1954 film does take place after World War II and the Hiroshima test. Knowing there are ideas for the Godzilla embryo in my previous episodes, I'd like to discuss how Godzilla's role will be, specifically Jin Spectre Godzilla himself. Following a hydrogen bomb test by the American government in the Pacific Ocean, there awakens a creature who takes notice of the bombing and begins attacking the shores of Japan. A group of investigators were sent out to find out what happened, and saw the islanders scattered in the beach. It was believed that Godzilla caused all of this, a sea creature from legendary myth who feeds upon humanity. One night a storm was brewing. It got worse when Godzilla shows up and brings further destruction. With every encounter Japan's government did to attack him did very little to no effect to the creature, and further advanced to greater devastation. But while the horror was going on, Dr. Zerozawa encounters Ikumu Yamane and Hideo Ogata, who ask to use the chemical known as the oxygen destroyer. The scientist was terrified by the suggestion and intended to destroy it. However, he eventually came to the decision, but only by the promise that it must never be used again. The plan was set. Ogata and Zerizawa go deep into the ocean to confront Godzilla and leave the oxygen destroyer to where the creature lied. The plan succeeded, but Dr. Zerizawa joined Godzilla in their deaths as the destroyer was initiated. Nothing but bones of the monster were left. As the investigation group cheered for Godzilla's demise and mourned for Dr. Zerizawa's sacrifice, Dr. Yamane warned that the creature was not the last of his kind, and if humanity persisted in using nuclear weapons, another would appear. This segment will go into how the Godzilla egg will have its place in the Megatronic Legacy continuity. For starters, the species Godzilla's clone would be intertwined from is the Zyglak from Bionicle. In G1 Bionicle's continuity, the Zyglak were a reptilian species, not to lump in with the other Rahi, which were created on accident by the Great Beings out of the remaining process of the first Mortorian to life. These creatures were shunned by the Great Beings, and anyone who honors Montanui earns their ire. They're also much beefier and stronger than Toho. Now, what does all this have to do with Godzilla? This is where the Godzilla Zyglak hybrid comes in. This Godzilla's body resembles a T-Rex's body. The idea was that following the end of the progressive fallout, Etna and her boyfriend Mikai searched for the remains of the Godzilla that attacked Japan in 1954. take a piece of his DNA and fuse it with the Zyglak egg. In this continuity, the Zyglak are one of the few of many species created by the Autobots on accident while the Cybertronian numbers were falling. Ever since then, they ventured onto Mystica as their homeworld, and some were captured by the Misilican regime for sport, experimentation, and enslavement. They're violent, hungry, and deadly. Once Etna and Mekai retrieved the Godzilla DNA and fused it into the Zyglak egg, its proportions shifted into more scale-like than biomechanical. However, they got caught into a Korean War and lost in the process, which ends up being in Iranian hands from 1955 to 1979. I made a video discussing Velvet's part in this series, so I encourage you to see it for further context. But just to pull a couple of clips from the video, and fought them. She nearly struggled to fend them off until Etna shows up. This was carried over from the first draft, but it gets refurbished even further where there would be a betrayal plot. Etna offers Velvet a deal that if she helps steal the Godzilla embryo in Iran, Misilica would be willing to revive her dead brothers. No side effects, no subservience, complete restoration. Misilica tasks Velvet to go to Iran in search of the Godzilla embryo. It was originally an egg for a Zyglak baby. Etna ends up finding the bones of the 1954 Godzilla and gets DNA from it to fuse with the egg. The egg becomes crystallized, and the baby inside, having the body of a T-Rex, would carry traits of Godzilla such as dorsal spines. To sum it all up, Velvet eventually took the egg, went through trials to succeed, and eventually did, only to be betrayed by Misilica in the end, which results to getting lost below the Genie realm and into Yalhelrix. This falls into the hands of Shantae and Ripto. They agreed to join forces in order to resolve their endeavors, the former retrieving her father back from Yalhelrix, and the latter using the monster for his hopes of getting back at Misilica without needing to use his henchmen to suffer. Ripto and Shantae attempt to control the creature from 1981 to 1984 in order to use him for their quest to retrieve a hidden key on Earth, as mentioned in my Shantae video. The issue is, Godzilla is very volatile. Still getting a grasp of the monster, the team had to tame him through magical means, while also dealing with an array of adversaries. Another aspect to witness such power could be Ryoko Matoi, Rokuro, and Magulu getting into the bottom of what was going on in the Genie realm. I could discuss the Shiai Ryu lore here, but that will be a separate video for another day. Moving on. Godzilla has fought against a variety of creatures to further advance his prowess. The more he's slain, the stronger he gets. Instead of just atomic energy, his body is comprised of light energon. This could allow him to regenerate, shoot small rock projectiles off of his body, and send shockwaves as he goes about his rampage. On October 1984, Shantae and Ripto send coordinates for Godzilla to Earth. Starting with China, he prowled towards Korea and then Japan. Their shocking arrival sent red flags to America, and President Reagan held an emergency meeting with Spyro, Flan, and Conker. He informed them of the monster's arrival. Both Republican and Democrat politicians were haunted by Godzilla's presence, as his nuclear devastation scarred Japan for all time. But while they worked to get things under control and for Reagan's re-election to remain intact, Senator Biden urged Congress to take action against Godzilla and reject Spyro team's aid. However, as we all can predict, Reagan tells him to shut up and sends the team to stop him. In their task of stopping the creature, Shantae and Ripto summon a portal to transport the trio into the Genie realm, which gives Godzilla a pathway to America without a viable opposition for a distraction. Godzilla arrives on Seattle, Washington, to begin his rampage on America, but his main goal was to find the key to Yalhelrix, located in Area 51 at Las Vegas, Nevada, and deliver it to Shantae and Ripto upon completion. This would act in the lines of Spy Kids 3D Game Over in terms of how long Spyro's team has in order to return to Earth and stop Godzilla. I was considering 3 days would work. Say it takes place on October 23rd, 1984, shortly after the final US presidential debate. It's past those days. We've now come to the 26th. Now, how Godzilla will be dragged back into the Genie realm is still up in the air. Bottom line though is that Godzilla is close to finding the key in Nevada, but gets pulled back into the Genie realm by the time he claims it, and the fight ensues between him and Spyro's squadron. In the end, Ripto double-crosses Shantae and takes Kreton's emblem, which keeps the Genie realm active in power, rich with gold energon. Another video for another day. As the realm depowers, Godzilla falls into Yalhelrix and is not seen again. The king of the monsters makes his attack upon Japan in 1954, and despite his demise, the monster's presence still haunts the country. But as his bones lay lifeless in the ocean, Etna and Makai make their way into his hellish grave and collect the DNA. They use it on an unhatched zygote egg for experimentation, essentially genetic engineering. For more than 2 decades, several factions have fought to claim such an abominable creature fused between the ferocious zygote kind and Godzilla's horrific power. It wasn't until Shantae found the egg in Yal Helrex and escapes with her mother, only to be split from her 2 teammates by Megatron's convoy's interference and magic. The half-genie joins forces with Ripto to tame their Godzilla for 3 years, and prepare the quest to find the key to Yal Helrex and rescue her father, who is still trapped in there. Jin Spectre Godzilla, the clone of the Monster King, powerful, vicious, and unpredictable. His gurgling noises from his neck is more than enough to send traumatizing chills to all those who contact with him. His light energon fusion also allows him to spew forth a stream of atomic energy and metallic tiny shards on his back next to the dorsal plates to shoot out and target anything that comes in his way. It's understood that Godzilla's origins were based on a nuclear activity. To think that a prehistoric animal would make an impact to a pretty big level, and it shows. From Showa to Heisei, Millennium, Reiwa, and Legendary, Godzilla spent 68 years and the King of the Monsters still roams to this day. Next time, I'll be going over the genie lore part in this series. Thanks for watching, feel free to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Over and out.